Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world, about to talk you through a review of converting fractions and decimals. So you probably remember that fractions and decimals are basically just different ways you can represent the same number. You probably all know that a half and 0.5 are the same number. They have the same value. It's just different ways to represent it. So we have something like 3 over 8. That can be written as a decimal too. It ends up being 0.375. So it's important that before we go any further, we understand place value with decimals. So remember, to the right of the decimal point, the first number afterwards is in the tenths column. So this number, 3 over 8, or 0.375, has 3 tenths. And then the next number is in the hundredths. So this number has 7 hundredths. And then the last number here happens to be in the thousandths column. So this number, 3 over 8, has 3 tenths, 7 hundredths, and 5 thousandths. So this is really important when we're converting from a decimal to a fraction. And I'm going to start off by showing you how to do that. So to convert from a decimal to a fraction, just follow these three steps. So every fraction, of course, has a numerator, top number, and denominator, which is a bottom number. So the bottom number on the fraction will just be the lowest place value of the decimal. Then to get the top number, you just write the decimal number with no decimal point, and then you may need to simplify. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So let's look at our example. How does 0.375 equal 3 over 8? We know it does because I just told you. So if I want to convert 0.375 to a fraction, I've just told you that the lowest place value is thousandths. So what that means is, when I'm converting it to a fraction, I put 1,000 on the bottom of the fraction. So what I put on the top is I write this number without a decimal point. So it becomes 375. So this is 375 thousandths. And then what I do is I see if I can simplify it. Now you can use your calculator for this. Just type in 375 over 1,000 and your calculator will simplify it for you. Or you need to find the highest number that goes into both of the numerator and the denominator. It turns out this one's tricky because the highest number is 125. So if I divide 375 by 125, I get 3. I divide 1,000 by 125, I get 8. Let's look at another one. Let's look at 1.4. So the lowest place value is here. It's in the tenths column. So I put a 10 on the bottom of the fraction, and on the top I write the number with no decimal point. Then I see if I can simplify. So 14 and 10 are both divisible by 2. So I divide the top by 2, I divide the bottom by 2, and I'm done. 1.4 is 7 over 5. So that's all well and good for decimal to fraction. You just follow these 3 steps and you'll always be good. You don't always, however, need to do step 3, but you need to check whether you need to do step 3. So let's say I have 0.29. So again, bottom number, the last digit here is in the hundredths column, so I put 100 on the bottom, and on the top I write the number with no decimal point. Now 29 over 100 can't be simplified. I check that on my calculator just to make sure, and then we're all good. So I'm now going to show you how to convert fractions to decimal, which unfortunately is a little bit tougher. So if you want to copy anything down, please pause the video and do so now. Okay, so these are a little more challenging, and I'm going to give you 2 methods as to how you can change a fraction to a decimal. So the first one involves equivalent fractions and then using place value, and the second one involves the short division algorithm. So I'll show you a few using the first method first up. So I'm going to start with a fraction, and then I've got to change it to a decimal. So I'll start off with a nice easy one. So let's say I have 3 over 10. Now this one is easy because step 1's already done. The denominator 10 is a power of 10 already. So I only need to do step 2. So this number is 3 tenths. So all I do is I write the number that has 3 in the tenths column. Remember, the tenths column is the first column after the decimal point. So this number is 3 tenths. So I just write it like that. Let's say I had the number 7 over 100. Well, this number is 7 hundredths. So I put a 7 in the hundredths column. There are no tenths. And then I put the decimal point. So this is 0.07 or 0.07. So let's have a number like 2 over 5. So this does not have a denominator, bottom number, as a power of 10. But if I times the top and bottom by 2, this becomes 4 over 10. The denominator is now a power of 10. This is just 4 tenths. So I write a 4 in the tenths column, and there are no ones. 0.4 and 4 tenths are the same thing. You probably already knew that. So let's say I have something like 3 over 4. So this one's tricky. I need to make the bottom number a power of 10. I can't times anything by 4 to get 10. 4 doesn't go into 10 evenly, but it goes into 100. So if I get my calculator, I find out that 100 divided 4 is 25. So I times top and bottom by 25. So 3 over 4 is the same as 3 times 25 is 75. 4 times 25 is 100. So this is 75 hundredths. So this is the same as 70 hundredths, so writing it out in expanded form, plus 5 hundredths. But of course, 70 hundredths is 7 tenths. So this is just no whole, 7 tenths, 5 hundredths. So what I suggest you do is you learn some common fractions, like learn that 3 over 4 equals 0.75, that 1 over 4 equals 0.25, and that will help you as well. So now I'm going to show you the second method. Now, the first method that I just showed you, I've got to say, I think it's quicker but a little more complicated. You can choose whichever one you like to use. So again, I'm going to rub this out. Please copy down if you need. So let's look at how you would go about converting fractions or decimals using the second method, and it's just the short division algorithm. So let's say I have the fraction 3 over 5. Now what that means is 3 divided by 5, or how many times does 5 go into 3? So I'm going to use the short division algorithm. So how many times does 5 go into 3? Well, 5 goes into 3 0 times, so I put a 0 there. So what I can do, because I can't really go any further unless I do this, is I can change that 3 to 3.0, and I can put a few zeros there, because 3 and 3.0 are the same thing. So 5 goes into 3 0 times, but there's a remainder of 3, so I carry that. And then I say, how many times does 5 now go into 30, this number? And that's 6, with no remainder. So the answer is 0.6, but I have to make sure that I put decimal point above decimal point. So 3 over 5 is 0.6. Let's do another example. Let's say this time I have 5 over 4. So this is going to be more than 1. So 4's on the bottom and 5's on the top this time. So this is saying how many times does 4 go into 5? So we write it like this. So again, 4 doesn't go into 5 evenly, so what I'm going to do is use my trick where I'm going to write a couple of zeros. So 4 goes into 5 once with 1 remainder. Then I say, how many times does 4 go into 10? Well, 4 goes into 10 twice with 2 remainder. So then I go, for how many times does 4 go into 20? It goes in 5 times and no remainder, therefore I can stop. Again, decimal point above decimal point. So I've just figured out that 5 over 4 equals 1.25. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Use any method you like to solve these problems. Have a great day.